My name is John Norris Parker. It's JOHN NORRIS. Parker, PARKER.
What is your birthday?
On the 3rd of November, 1928.
November
November the 3rd in 1928.
28.
And
So
I'm 90 years old.
90 years
90
old.
years old.
Wow, you have a longevity. And you have a long way to go.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
So you born 1 year before the Great Depression.
Yeah, it was just at the end of the Great Depression.
Oh.
I was born in Cairns on that date, and
K-E-N?
CARINS.
C-I-N-E-S?
INES.
Cairns?
CAN.
Cairns. And where was in Victoria?
No, in North Queensland,
Okay.
where the floods are now.
Oh. Yeah, I heard about it.
But to see, we had floods like that in my day as a child, and where the water came everywhere, and suddenly they haven't seen it for a while, and it's rather interesting.
Rather interesting, yes.
Yes.
Tell me about your family when you were growing up. Your parents and your siblings.
Yes, my parents are both gone, and
At the time.
Oh, at the time, right. Dad he worked in the courthouse.
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 Ah.
And he was a magistrate, and he handled that sort of problems. And
So magistrate.
yes.
Wow, that was a high government officers.
It was yes. It was. He was a personality, and he did his job well. We were good mates.
And how many siblings did you have at the time?
There's two.
Just two?
And myself and my sister.
I see.
And she's still alive and doing very well. And so anyway,
What about the Great Depression? So because your father was magistrate, you didn't seem to have a real difficult time at the time.
he handled that part of it quite well as far as we children were concerned. It happened. It didn't really affect us. I know that people in the cities experienced a lot of different, but Cairns was okay.
So tell me about the school you went through.
I started school when I was 5 years old. It was a state school, and
Could you speak up a little bit more so that, yeah.
It was a state school, and it continued on with my education. And for the last 2 years, I went to a grammar school, the Church of England Grammar School in Brisbane. And that's where I passed my junior exam, which was the one that was critical at that time.
Brisbane.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I did quite well, and I started work with an accountant as I was training to be an accountant, and enjoyed that, and it was all going along very well, except one day in Cairns, I was in the office, and all of a sudden there was a whoosh, and a formation of sea furies flew over the top of us.
Huh.
And I was out there on the veranda watching it, and I thought, you lucky blokes, flying like that. And here am I pushing a pen. And I thought, gee, I'd like to do that. Then going home in the rail motor, because my parents lived in Gordonvale, I said, I brought home the newspaper, and the newspaper said, where they wanted trainee pilots and navigators in the Air Force.
Ah.
And so I was now 21, so I would put myself down, put an application in to join, and it was successful. And after due process and interviews, I was recommended to join the Air Force and went down to Melbourne.
When was it? When did you join the Air Force?
The 5th of February, I think it was.
1950?
1950. And I joined the Air Force and as a trainee pilot. There were about 100 started the course, and when the course finished after 18 months, there were 15 of us graduated as pilots.
Out of how many?
There's about 50 odd.
50?
Yeah.
So 18 out of 50?
Yeah, because it was very hard, the intense, and you had to be active on it as well.
So you became pilot, right?
Pilot,
Yeah.
yes, a fighter pilot.
What kind of training did you get? Where was it actually? Was it Melbourne?
Yes, Melbourne at Point Cook.
Point Cook.
Point Cook,
Yeah.
Melbourne. And we did 6 months for initially learning all various subjects like engineering and airframes and all the things that mattered to make an aeroplane fly. And then after that, we started our flying tiger moths.
What is it?
Tiger moths.
Tiger
Moth, M-O-T-H.
M-O-T-H.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting name, isn't it?
Yes.
Tiger moth.
Yes, a lovely little aeroplane, two-engined and
Propellers, right?
Yes. And anyway, we did 6 months on that, where we learnt to go and do navigations and aerobatics, everything that it could do. And on the conclusion of that, we then moved to the next model of aeroplane, which was a Wirraway.
What was it?
A Wirraway.
Could you spell it?
W-I-R-R-A.
W?
W-I-R-R.
Double R.
A-W-A-Y.
A-W-A-Y.
Yeah, I think that's how.
Wirraway.
Wirraway.
Huh. What kind of aircraft was
It
it?
was a very slow aeroplane. It had 600 horsepower engine, and it could do a lot more than what the Tiger Moth did. And we graduated.
Was it fighter jet plane?
Fighter, and we graduated on that, and posted, and we got our wings, which we wear. And so then we went from there on to...
When did you get the wing? Was it 1952?
91.
51?
Yes. About August.
Uh-huh.
And then we went posted up to Williamtown, which is north of Newcastle, and that's where the fighter base is. And we learnt there. They went on to the Mustang, and which your country has as well. And then from there, after a period of time, we used to have a jet, a Vampire, as a jet. And then having done that, that was in the end of 1951. And then we got our posting to Korea, or to Japan first, to get trained in the Meteor.
Mm-hmm. Where?
In the Meteor. This was an aircraft we bought from the English.
Yeah.
And sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
Okay. The English sold us the aeroplanes and made lots of claims about what it will do. And so when we eventually moved across from Iwakuni, where we were learning to fly it, to going to our operational base, which was Kimpo in Korea, which I'm afraid to say is gone now.
No, it's there.
It's all the Kimpo's gone.
Kimpo is still there.
Is it?
Yeah. Now it's become an international airport.
Yes. Well, it was. I looked there. I've been there once or twice actually, and I couldn't find it.
You couldn't find something that you know there.
Yes. Anyway, it was nice. We lived in tents on the base, and we all and we ate with the Americans. They looked after our food, and it was quite good. Each day we I arrived there in February at the squadron, and
so that's a 1952.
52.
Yeah.
And
you arrived in Gimpo 1952, February?
February 1952, and it was cold.
Yeah.
I never struck it like that before, so we learned something. And the next thing that we got is going on. They took us on operational flights. So the first one was they flew us over the known places that we'd go to.
Sabre.
Yes, and then the next day we were on operations, and from there on we flew as we were briefed or requested by I'm sorry, by the organisation sorry.
It's okay.
They briefed us each day where we had to go, and this included the places like Shinampo, Pyongyang, Hamhung, all those places to the north, and even up the Yalu. And initially they had us flying in as top cover for the Sabres, but we got belted by the MiGs and one day, and they shot down 3 of them of ours, and they became POWs for the whole war. And the airplane wasn't good enough to at that height.
You mean MiG? MiG was not good enough.
No. The MiG was
Sabre?
good. No, the Meteor. We were flying top cover to the Sabre, and the Sabre was a better aeroplane than ours. But anyway, we learned to get away from that.
So the Australian Air Force shot down 3 MiGs.
Yes, we did 3 MiGs.
Wow, that's good.
I had a go at that, but I missed him.
But was there any strong resistance from enemy Air Force? I heard that enemy Air Force wasn't that strong.
No, it was strong.
Was it?
Well, yes, they had Russians in them, training them, and the people knew how to interpret when the Russians were flying, and when that would happen, they would say that Casey Jones has left the station, and that was the wording to say that the Russian was flying lead for the North Korean pilots.
Were there many MiGs around?
Oh yes, there were MiGs around, all right. Not all the time, but.
How often did you encounter with them?
I suppose about say 4 or 5 times. They go, and I know what it's like to be going around in a circle with a fellow with a big cannon going boom at you. It's just not fun.
Dogfighting, right?
Yes, dogfighting. But anyway, we after that they took us off air attacks like that, and they put us on ground attack.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, put us on ground attack against targets,
Yeah.
like electricity and water and all sorts of things, vehicles and troops too. We had managed all that, and it was a very intense time, and it was very hard. We were flying at least 2 flights a day.
2 flights a day.
2 flights a day. Yeah.
That's a lot of sorties.
It was. It was particularly, going out all the time, and we eventually got. The 4 of us went up together, and by the time of 6 months, they were all dead, shot down, and so I was very bitter when I left the career, because I'd lost my friends, and it was a hard thing to come home.
Any special sortie or the mission that you still remember?
Yeah.
Could you tell me about those? Any specific mission that you carried and you still remember it? Somehow.
We had missions at we'd guess to say even Pyongyang.
The capital city of North Korea.
That's right.
Yeah. So you were with many different squadrons bombing Pyongyang.
Pyongyang.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Well, we had to get up there. We all flew around to here waiting our turn to go in, and then we were told to go in. So we went in, and we were firing rockets. We carried 8 rockets on the wing, and of course the guns as well, and use them as when necessary. But that was a big one, and there were aeroplanes everywhere, and of course by response they were throwing everything at us, and it's a sight that I don't want to see too often. Is the effect of artillery coming at you, and it starts off as a little fireball down there, and it gets slowly, because it comes up and weaves around, and then it flies past, and it's very, between that ball, that light you see, and the next one, there are 5 other projectiles, so every 5th one was a 5 one. But anyway, we got a lot of aircraft damage through.
You've been hit?
Yes.
Many times?
Yes, a few times. At one stage, I could just about crawl in through the fuselage. Right behind me, about 10 feet, there's this hole in the bottom of the fuselage. Pardon me. I'm sorry. Where the shell had come through and then exploded upwards, thank goodness, because it missed the control wires were on either side. And so I noticed that as we came back and then started to slow down to land, I could hear this thing whistling. And I wondered what the heck it was, and everyone was pointing at it and saying, look at it. And it was this hole in the fuselage. And so that was quite something.
Quite dangerous.
It was, yes.
You could
because somebody was looking after me, and you know that too.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kept it about 10 feet from where I sat to where it went through, right in the middle. So I wouldn't have been here if it hadn't been for that. So, but anyway, I did 170.
170 sortie?
170.
Yeah.
Sorties, all told, and the last one was when a very good friend of mine was killed on one, and I never forget that.
When was it?
That day, it was in August, September.
September 1952.
And anyway, they sent me home after that mission. They said they don't want to. So of the four of us went up there, I was the only one left, and they didn't want to have me go up there and get shot down. So they said sent me home.
So you were in Korea for 7 months,
Yeah,
basically.
a bit longer than that.
A little longer than that. Okay. How many Australian aircrafts were there?
It's about 16 or 18.
16 or 18?
I'd say 18.
18 aircrafts.
Aircraft.
Was it all Sabre?
No, all Meteors.
Huh?
All Meteors. They're two-engine airplane.
What is the Meteor?
A Meteor, that's the aeroplane we flew.
Could you spell it?
M-E-T-E-O-R.
M-E-T-E-O-I.
E-O-I.
R-E-O-R. Meteor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Meteor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they were an English aeroplane.
And how many pilots were there when you were there?
At that time, we were nearly all sergeant pilots because of the experienced pilots were very few. And we had gone through our training and come up there, and it happened.
How many total?
I couldn't answer that question.
Just about approximately. 20, 30?
Well, for starters, but when we were people that as the people had finished training, they'd automatically go up there. So you'd be into the hundreds.
Hundreds, okay.
I'd say would go through.
And what was your rank at the time?
I was a sergeant pilot.
Sergeant pilot.
Sergeant pilot, and very interesting because the Americans thought that we graduated. Now they graduate and then get promoted to officer rank. Well, our people, you got to finish the course and you became a sergeant. So what they said, well, you can't come into our mess if you're a sergeant, but take your rank off. So we never wore rank, and then we could go in.
Officers Club.
Yes.
Yes.
They considered that, well, and I agree with them too.
Yeah.
It was pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Just being a sergeant, and of course it wasn't worrying the politicians at all.
Exactly. Yeah. How was living in Kimpo? Living in tents and
in tents. They had wooden sides with a pot-bellied stove in the middle, which was supplied from a big drum outside. We had stretchers and a sleeping bag, and that's it. Except when the winter came and you'd grab anything to get warm, and the pot-bellied stove would glow. It was so hot.
So hot.
Yes, that's what we lived in, and we fought to a tent, and we got fed by the Americans, so we went up to their mess, and then
So you shared the food with the Americans, and
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
How was food? Was a hot meal?
Yes, mainly sort of mushy stuff. They don't like chewy stuff. It's mushy.
Yeah.
And it was good. Their ice cream was wonderful.
Ice cream.
Yes.
That's something, right?
Yes.
What did you do other than flying?
No, that's all we did. Except our time off, we'd get it. We did it a couple of times. We got hold of a jeep, and then we drove into Seoul.
Seoul?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Tell me about Seoul you saw at the time.
Oh, it was devastated.
Tell me detail.
I wish where the main station was, and it's just a remnants of it there. The rest of the place was all smashed to pieces, it was, you know, dreadful that what had happened to it. The people, of course, were very. We didn't have that much to do with the people because we didn't know them, and but they were quite pleasant to us, and we respected that. We'd go around and sometimes look at some of the churches, and I was impressed with that. But anyway...
How was the living condition of the Korean people? Just be honest.
Very, very difficult. They... I'm just trying to think of the village close to Kimpo. There was one there, and you could see that they were all packed together, all the houses. But they still did their job, you know, working, and they didn't get much trouble at all because they were. It was we used to have an aeroplane fly across at night, by one of theirs, and the fellow used to drop bombs out of it. But he was mainly dropping it where aeroplanes were, and that. But it was very interesting. But we didn't have the opportunity to meet things because we would have to do a mission, come back and get sort of have a rest, and then this was dinner time, and if you went and you never got out. We had in the whole of the time I was in Korea, we had a week off. We were taken over to Japan.
R&R.
R&R.
So please tell me about the Korea you saw the first time you went back. How was it?
I'll put it this way. When I left Korea, I hated it because it had killed my friends. And then I had the opportunity of going back with this group. I accepted it, and I was astounded with the development that had gone on. It absolutely impressed me, no end. And I've been back twice since then, and it's all the more. Every time I go there, it's just so much bigger, and the road, the traffic, the way it's controlled, you can have 6 lanes of traffic through the middle of the city, and everything works. It was impressive. And the other thing, the mountains have trees on them, and I couldn't believe it. All these trees, because in my day, it was absolutely bare, you know, with the shells and what have you. And I think it's a wonderful place. And I'm sorry I'm over the hill now to go back, but that's right. A church group ran a big conference, and they took us. Even went to church, and I was staggered. Thousands going to church, where you sat down, or we were put in the middle of the place. Well, and they had an orchestra, full orchestra, and they were wonderful. Never forget it. And I've got the book at home, which is a gift, and I frequently look at it because it's. I'm reminded, and I'll always say it. What workmanship and what the ability of your country. It amazes me how you've done it. But anyway,
So now you feel better?
Oh yes, oh yes. I believe now that they died for the betterment of your country. And,
that's the legacy.
Yes, that's right. And I hear your word legacy, and I'm a legacy. In Australia, we have legacy. Looks after all the servicemen who have died and left a widow and children, and so we look after them. So that's what you could do in the spare time.
But something very good came out of their sacrifice.
Oh yes.
And it's not just Australian, it's UN forces,
Yes.
and 2 million Korean civilian people being killed or wounded,
That's right.
being separated among their families, so they still cannot get into one place.
That's right. Yes. Oh.
So all these things, something very good came out of it, and we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
It becomes a forgotten war.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. Oh, it's a shame because you achieved so much in building your country up, and I don't know the politics of it, although I've met some, but I haven't sort of studied it at all. But it's a wonderful example of what can be done if they get together. But, anyway. I brought my medals along to show you.
Sure. Show that up to your chin so that we can cover that. Up to your chin. Wow, you have many medals.
Yes.
Explain it to me, please. One by one from here to there.
That's
the red stripe.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the Air Force Cross.
How did you get that?
That was for flying in Australia.
Could you speak up?
We were in helping. I trained pilots for their operation with Canberras in Vietnam.
In Vietnam.
And so I went up there and had a little bit of time. And
that's one of the highest medal, right?
It's up in the...
And?
That's the Order of Australia. I got that for legacy.
Of Korean War?
That's the DFM. That's the medal I got for Korea.
Yeah.
That medal. It's a Malay medal. That's why I went to Malaya, and that's the Korean Star, and that's the United Nations. They're all.
That's a Korea. It's a Korea.
Right, yeah. That's the United Nations, and and then that's the American Air Medal, which the Colonel Thing presented that to me with the others as well. So I thought that might be of interest to the people.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm proud of it.
You should be proud of it. Yeah.
So,
anything else out of that purse?
No. Just,
so tell me about this. How can we make this forgotten war remembered among our young generation?
I haven't given that sort of reasonable thought. Well, you've got to get down to the children. And that's where it's got to start. The children have to be sort of made more familiar at their early level, so they realise and accept that this war, they could have been in the communist hand if it hadn't been for the United Nations. But I think that's the way you get to it, through children.
Do you have grandchildren?
Yes, I've got great-grandchildren.
Great-grand. Any of them, or your children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren, are there any teacher in the history class? In the school? No?
No, not really. No.
Because my foundation, sponsored by the Ministry of Patriot and Veterans Affairs, hosting conference annually and inviting history teachers who are interested in teaching about the Korean War and modern Korea. So I want to recruit, teachers who will continue to talk about your legacy.
Yes. Well, that's where that's the best part. use the children and be taught what you've gone through. It's extraordinary. And oh, that's right. The other thing that I noticed, that we in Australia here are forever having holidays. They don't work because they have to. There's a holiday for something. And I know that in Korea you work. You don't have odd. You have 1 or 2 days. That's all you have in the way.
You mean at the time you were there in Korea?
Yes, it happened there when we were up there.
Nowadays we have many holidays. Too many holidays.
Yes. No, that's different. But the other thing I noticed was the church.
Yes.
I can't get over that. And just as well, I've got this lovely magazine, or this lovely photo album was presented to us all, and it shows you the thousands in there, and it's extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm very impressed.
But these days, the church is getting too big, so that there are a lot of problems too.
Yes.
I don't like churches becoming too big.
I could say that would probably happen.
Yeah.
But that's natural.
Let me ask this question. What is your legacy? What are you proud of out of your service during the Korean War as a pilot, of Australian pilot?
Yes. Oh, well, I'm proud to have flown up there. To do what we've achieved, and also I will say this to the benefit of your government. We appreciate being invited back to the country. It's not done by anyone else, and make that known as well, so that the people realise that you do have a war. I think that's how you can sort of do it. The other thing was, I noticed, I remember vividly the tank when that's right, I've been underground in the tunnels, and realised that there's a lot of things happening there, but outside they had these cement structures with a great big flood on top. So they just blow them up and bang, down goes you block off.
Yeah, tank.
Yeah, tanks.
Yes.
So that's an interesting part of what's going on there, and it still goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the current negotiation between U.S. and North Korea about the nuclear programs? Are you following up with that?
The nuclear, yeah, well, yes.
Trump is talking to Kim Jong-un.
Well, I can't sort of say much at the moment, but it's not common in my mind, but we're concerned about it, and particularly now that what's going on there right now, Australia is targeted, and
by whom?
Russia.
Russians.
Yes, yeah. They've got stuff there. They can come down, or Chinese. And
there are so many Chinese tourists here, and they're buying a lot of housing here. Yeah. What do you think about them?
It doesn't worry me.
Yeah.
Well, because it's
civilians.
That's what we went up there to fight. Well, to say, well, they can come down here and enjoy it, and they don't. It's like Kim. He works for us, but he doesn't explain, say anything at all.
Okay. Any other episode that you want to share about your sorties? I mean, the mission, bombing or dogfighting, any other things that you want to share with me?
I can't think of anything. Really, I've had a wonderful Air Force career, and I'm quite happy to go.
What would you say to the Korean people for the 70th commemoration of the war. It's so ridiculous, but it's been 70 years by 2020.
That's right.
And now you went back to Korea and you saw Korea has been developing. What would you say to the Korean people?
Well, I'd acknowledge, first of all, when you have a function in Australia by the Korean people, for whatever circumstances are, we always are invited to accept a gift, and nobody else does it. It's an unknown quantity. That you've got, and I know that we are all appreciative of what you've done for somebody, for us as well, because it was in my case. I'll never get rid of the thoughts of those friends, but still, it was worth it to lose them if we got what we did.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't want to stop there. As a personal appreciation from each other, you came to fight for us so that we appreciate you, and you are appreciated because we invite you back.
yes,
But we shouldn't stop there. We have to go further and talk about this friendship, and something very good came out of your service for the young generations to come.
Yes. Well, see that you see it's established here that our monument. That we've
Monument,
got for
yes.
you, that's the only one, or there's another one being built down south, but it's the original Korean example of commemorating the members of who participated,
Mm-hmm.
and the Koreans, pardon me, come along to that service as well.
John, this is great honor to meet you and hear from you. You're very honest and very passionate witness of your service.
Yes,
And I want to thank you for your fighting, and good to remain
yes,
as friends.
yes, oh yes. It'll never change.
Never change.
Yeah. The Koreans could come and do whatever they like here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.